Now, as the name of the video implies, this is of course part 6 of a story, so unless you want to be lost and confused, I'd recommend starting at part 1, and if you like it, maybe you'll find yourself back here soon enough. I'll include a link to that and all the other parts in the description below. And without further ado, let's jump right back into the story. We're with Kanan and Leia, who are walking together in one of the corridors of the temple on Yavin, and jump into the middle of a conversation between the two of them. We first hear Kanan say, looking confused, "So wait, they're not going to kill him now?" Leia shakes her head, but still looks rather pleased. "No, I've only managed to buy him some time." She holds up a data pad and explains, "I filed an appeal on Anakin's behalf, and a request for a fair trial." Kanan seems dubious. "And they went for that?" "Of course," Leia says with a casual shrug. "If the rebellion hopes to be the foundation of a new republic someday, they have to be better than the Empire. Killing a man without giving him a chance to defend himself would make them no different." Kanan thinks on it for just a moment before nodding. "Yeah, that does make sense. So how long is this going to buy us?" Leia's hopeful look fades a bit. "A few days at most. They want to get this all over and done with as soon as possible. So that means we're going to need a good distraction if we plan to get Anakin out of here and onto a ship." "Speaking of that," Kanan begins, "our pilot is on standby waiting to swoop in and get us out of here in a moment's notice. He's got the landing codes he needs and everything, but..." "But what?" Leia asks. "But he's charging us 2,000 credits a day just to be on standby. Says his time is extremely valuable." Leia rolls her eyes a bit and shakes her head. "This hotshot pilot sounds like little more than a scoundrel to me." We then get a shot of the Death Star, and a Star Destroyer approaching it. Soon enough, a shuttle emerges from the ship and is escorted towards the Death Star by 2 TIE fighters. We're then in the hangar bay packed full of stormtroopers, officers, and other personnel all standing at attention. And among them, standing together and watching as the shuttle comes in for a landing, is Grand Moff Tarkin and Grand Admiral Thrawn. Tarkin then says, not taking his eyes from the shuttle, "Be warned, Grand Admiral, his mood has been quite foul as of late." Thrawn then replies, also keeping his eyes on the ship, "So I hear. Since the disappearance of Lord Vader, it seems." Tarkin frowns. "You heard about that. I forget how very little gets past you, Grand Admiral." To that, Thrawn says nothing, and the shuttle finishes landing and the ramp lowers, and several royal guards descend down it before the Emperor himself does. And he walks right up to Thrawn and Tarkin, who have both taken a knee before him. "Rise, my friends," the Emperor says, and they both do. "Walk with me," he commands. Tarkin and Thrawn exchange a quick look before they fall in beside him. The Emperor then continues, "Was I not assured by both of you some time ago that the rebellion would soon be dealt with?" Thrawn is the one who then says, "They have proven to be more cunning prey than originally anticipated." The Emperor flashes Thrawn a look. "Too cunning for the likes of you, Grand Admiral?" Thrawn is about to reply when an officer, who looks rather terrified, tries to run up to the Emperor but gets stopped by the royal guards, who move with unexpected speed. "Your Majesty," the officer says, "Scarif base is under attack." There is then a very long, tension-filled moment of silence before the Emperor waves away the officer who brought the news and says, "Krennic's failure is now complete. No doubt the rebels are attempting to get their hands on the plans to this battle station. Go, both of you, end this threat once and for all, and send Director Krennic to me. It's time he gets the recognition he feels he deserves." Tarkin and Thrawn both bow before the Emperor again, and give each other a look as the Emperor walks off with his royal guard. We're then back on Yavin, and with Kanan and Leia, who are quickly walking down the corridor leading to the chamber where Vader is being held below the temple. Together they push some type of large supply crate that hovers a few inches off the ground. Above them we can hear the base is in chaos, and an announcement that all forces are being diverted to Scarif. Leia then stops both of them and takes Kanan by the hand and looks into his sightless eyes. "Thank you," she says. Kanan smiles at her. "No need to thank me, Princess. Leia. And remember, we're the last Jedi. We're doing what's right." Leia gives a wistful smile. "No one else will see it that way. Not your friends. Not Hera, not Zeb, or even Ezra. And I'm not even sure you see it that way." We see Kanan squeeze Leia's hand and he says, "I trust you. I trust the Force. And both are telling me that's Anakin Skywalker in there. And..." Kanan's voice drifts away, so Leia squeezes his hand back and presses him. "And?" Kanan only looks down awkwardly. "And let's just get him out of here. We can figure out the 'and' part later." Leia smiles and nods before letting go of his hand, and the two continue down the corridor to Vader's holding area. When they get there, Leia and Kanan are surprised to find no guards posted, But before they can even question it, Ezra pops out from behind Vader's bacta tank with an overly innocent look upon his face, and he says, I thought you two might need a little help. Kanan then smacks his forehead out of frustration and groans, Ezra, just what do you think you're doing? Ezra shrugs, helping my master, of course. I am still your Padawan after all, remember? Kanan is about to protest, but Leia takes him by the arm. He's made his decision, Kanan, and that decision is to stand with his fellow Jedi. Leia then looks at Ezra and smiles apologetically. I'm sorry I didn't talk to you about this, Ezra. You are as much one of the last Jedi as Kanan and myself, and it was wrong for me not to come to you with this for help. Those words seem to touch Ezra deeply, and he looks away from Leia and Kanan as if guilty. He then says, I'm sorry. Leia and Kanan exchange a nervous glance. For what? Kanan asks. Ezra shakes his head and shuts his eyes, as if fighting tears. I had to do it. It was the only way to protect you all. Kanan starts to approach Ezra while Leia seems suddenly frozen with fear. Ezra, what have you done? Ezra looks up and says simply, I poisoned the bacta. He's dying. You weren't supposed to get here till he was dead, and I was long gone. You would have thought just about anyone else on the base had done it. We hear Leia cry out as Kanan turns his attention to the bacta tank. He ignites his saber and breaks the glass, and the fluid spills everywhere. We see Anakin's body is convulsing, and Kanan starts to use his saber to quickly hack him free. In a matter of moments, he has Anakin free, and he falls to the floor twitching. Kanan then yells to Leia, Bring the suit over, we don't have much time. Leia snaps out of her trance and pushes the crate over to Kanan, and then she starts to unpack the pieces of Vader's mechanical suit. That's when we hear a saber ignite, and Ezra now stands there, green saber pointed at Kanan, his head shaking from side to side. His look has gone from guilty and apologetic to blank and utterly emotionless. Kanan slowly raises his hands, keeping one eye on the ever-fading Anakin. Ezra, he begins, what are you doing? When Ezra speaks, there is an echo of something else in his voice, something dark. You must decide, Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Knight, which life to save. That of the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker, or that of your young Padawan. Kill the Chosen One, and I shall release Ezra from my grip forever. Kanan shakes his head. I will not make that choice, he declares. Ezra gives one firm nod. Very well, then it shall be made for you, he says as he turns his attention to Anakin on the floor and raises his saber to strike him down. But Kanan quickly ignites his saber again and blocks the attack before saying, Leia, get your father into that suit as quickly as you can. Immediately, Leia snaps into action, and that's when Ezra says, his voice and face suddenly returning to normal. You would pick him over me? Kanan shakes his head. It's not about him over you, Ezra. It's about right over wrong. Ezra shakes his head, confused, and takes a few steps back. He's a Sith Lord. We were trying to destroy the Sith, and now you're saving him? Kanan ignores that and instead says, It's not that simple, Ezra. You know it isn't. Ezra glances to Leia, then back to Kanan. Yes, it is. You're letting your emotions control you, Master. Search your feelings. You know this isn't right. Kanan lets out a long, frustrated sigh, but before he can say anything, Ezra's face again goes blank, and he puts his saber to his own neck and says, the dark echo returning, Kill the Chosen One or I will kill your apprentice. Kanan slowly shakes his head from side to side and says, Ezra, whatever this is, you have to fight it. Fight it! Ezra gives him a wicked grin. This one is not strong enough to fight me. Now destroy the Chosen One or he dies. Kanan turns his sightless gaze down upon Anakin, and though he can't see her, he knows Leia is looking up at him with a pleading expression, but he isn't exactly sure what it is she wants or even expects from him at that moment. I told you, he then says to Ezra, I won't make that choice. Kanan then makes a quick move with his hand to attempt to force pull Ezra's saber away from him, but it is easily resisted by Ezra, who then counters by force pushing Kanan halfway across the chamber. Ezra then raises his saber over his head and charges at Anakin, but we hear another saber ignite, and before we even know what's happened, Ezra is standing frozen right over Anakin, saber still above his head, but there is a shocked expression upon his face, and a blue saber through his chest, being held by Leia. Kanan cries out as Leia deactivates the saber and drops it. Ezra stumbles backwards and falls to the stone floor. Kanan rushes to Ezra's side, who is gasping for breath. We'll get you help, Kanan promises. But Ezra manages to shake his head. No, Master, it's too late. Just promise me. Promise me you'll find the one who did this to me and destroy her. Kanan looks frantic and asks, Her? Who's her? Tell me who it is. Ezra then says with his last breath, It's Ahsoka, but... Ezra goes still, and Kanan lets out a rage-filled scream. Leia hesitantly approaches Kanan and begins to apologize, but Kanan cuts her off and says, She did what she had to do, and that, Jedi or not, he will find the one truly responsible for this and make her pay. We're then with Ahsoka, who is kneeling in a dark, unknown location. In front of her, standing calmly, is Luke, who asks, "What troubles you?" Ahsoka takes a deep, calming breath before responding, "Your father yet lives." Luke nods. "I feared as much. Next time I face him, I will make sure to complete the task and destroy him." Ahsoka frowns, and it's clear she's having trouble controlling her anger by her ever-darkening face. "You will not find it so easy the next time you encounter him, young one." Luke looks curious. "Oh, and why is that?" "They have plans on freeing the Chosen One of his suit and making him anew. And if they do, his strength will be difficult to match." Luke shakes his head. I don't understand. What is the importance of the Chosen One?" Ahsoka gets to her feet and seems to debate just how much to tell Luke. Finally, she begins. "The Jedi have a prophecy saying that a Chosen One will be born of the Force who will bring balance by destroying the Sith. However, the Sith have a prophecy of their own about the Chosen One, and it says his children will be able to unleash the Force and free the one who can wield all its power, and thus bring about 1,000 generations of order." Luke gives a small grin. "And I suppose you're the one who can wield all that power once it's unleashed by me." Ahsoka shakes her head. "No, I am but his loyal apprentice, imprisoned by my fellow Sith many generations ago because they feared me and my power and the return of my master. Like all who wield the dark side, they could not see beyond their own wants, their own desires for power. They could not see the greater good." Luke then mockingly echoes, "The greater good?" Ahsoka gives a nod. "Good is a point of view, young one. The Jedi believe if people are given the right to choose, they will make the right choices. Time after time, however, they have been proven wrong. The Republic Palpatine destroyed was proof of that. The Sith only wish to take away the choices of the individual and replace it with order and stability for all." Ahsoka gives a small wry smile. "And for this desire, we are considered evil." Luke seems to ponder all that for a moment before asking, "And your master?" Ahsoka loses the smile and turns away from Luke. "Imprisoned by the ancient Jedi in the unknown regions. Some Sith, those who he has deemed worthy, he has called out to, but none have yet to reach him." Luke then says, "Why do I get the feeling you're not telling me everything?" Ahsoka, her back still to Luke, gives a wicked grin. "Fear not, young one. You will have your place in the new order to come, a very important one. I promise you that." We're then back on Yavin, and Kanan and Leia are pushing the large supply crate through the hangar and towards the outside as X-Wings and Y-Wings take off all around them. Those who look at them clearly don't seem to think it's their place to question the Princess of Alderaan and what she's doing, nor do they likely want to question two Jedi who have such dark and grim expressions upon their face. When they get outside, Kanan and Leia look around, and finally Leia points and says, "What about that one?" But Kanan shakes his head. "Can't be. That's just a piece of junk." Leia frowns. "Well, that piece of junk is the only ship here that isn't a rebellion ship. It has to be it." Kanan mutters a curse under his breath. "I should have known better than to trust Lando." Leia then points out that it'll have to do as the two rush towards it, and the ship is, of course, the Millennium Falcon. As they get closer, the ramp descends and out walks Han and Chewie. Han looks the two of them over and quickly asks, "I take it you're Lando's friends?" Kanan grumbles as they head up the ramp. "I wouldn't exactly call him a friend." Han nods. "Yeah, I know what you mean." Leia then looks the Falcon over and then looks at Han and says, "We were in need of a fast ship." Han gives her a look. "Then you're in luck, sweetheart. This is the Millennium Falcon." Kanan and Leia look at each other and both shrug. "It's the ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs?" Again, Kanan and Leia exchange a look. "She's fast enough for the two of you." Han then looks at the supply crate. "So, what's the cargo?" Kanan replies, "No questions, remember?" Han shrugs it away and Kanan goes on. "Lando said you would know how to find Dr. Search." Han nods. "Yeah, the guy who fixed up his buddy Lobot? I can take you there. But he's the best in the galaxy at what he does. Which means he's not cheap. You got the credits for him and to pay me?" Leia gives him a scowl. "You'll get every credit coming to you. You needn't worry about that." She then proceeds to start pushing the supply crate back up the ramp and into the Falcon, along with Kanan. When the two are in the ship, Chewie lets out a small roar, which causes Han to shake his head defensively. "What makes you think I'd like her?" Chewie lets out another small roar and then heads up the ramp into the ship. Han just stands there and thinks for a moment before finally saying, "Well, maybe there is something about her." And that is where this part ends. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to let me know what you thought of this part of the story and what you think will happen next. So leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And if you liked this video, check out some of my other ones or go ahead and subscribe. If you've already done all that, then thanks for your continued support. If you want to know when I upload new videos, including the next part of this, hit the notification button or just follow me on Twitter. And as always, thanks for watching.